Hi, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, as always, Gabby Hurlbut. It's another nice Tuesday. I hope everybody is getting through the week. The weekend will be here before we all know it, and I hope that everyone is just staying safe and getting vaccinated and just hoping that we can move forward with this whole pandemic as soon as we can. So everyone just stay positive and just do what you need to do, and we'll be back to normal before we know it. So that's exciting, and there's definitely positivity to happen here, and I'm happy about it. So yeah, so that's where we're all at right now. I'm very, very excited to introduce my guest for this week. He's a local. He lives relatively close to me. He's from Connecticut. So yay, Connecticut. Shout out to that. His name is Mike Howard. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you. I'm excited. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I was definitely excited to have you on. I actually had the pleasure of talking to Mike on another podcast
Mhm.
recently, about a month or so ago, with some of my friends that have a podcast too. So he's very accomplished. He's done a lot in the media industry, starting with the fact that he has his own talk show, which is pretty cool. So do you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So again, thank you for having me on your podcast. I host and produce my own local talk show in New Haven, Connecticut called the Mike Nice Talk to Talk Show. And I started it my senior year in high school. And this past March 26th was my 15-year anniversary. So I've been doing it for 15 years strong. I'm really happy about that. I'm really thrilled about that. My goal is to do it for 5 more years and have it a big 20 years. I feel like if you do anything in life for 20 years, that's a huge accomplishment. And I've been fortunate and lucky just to interview anybody I could, get my hands over, get my hands to, and like call and email, and whether it's my local politicians or someone like Charlemagne the God or Russell Simmons or athletes or the Sport of Reporting Project. But it's something that I had a passion for a long time now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's great to see people really commit and do what they want to do and just put in the effort to really make it in the media industry, because it definitely is a competitive industry to be in, which I'm sure that you can agree with. And just doing what's necessary to really make a name for yourself, and just make those moves to really be successful in this industry.
Absolutely. It is tough, but just like anything in life, if you want to be great at it, it's going to be tough. And whether it's on a local or national level, a lot of people kind of get confused because if it's on a national level, it's supposed to be tough. But no, if it's even on a local level, if it's podcasting, if it's anything, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. It is tough, and a lot of us that are in the industry definitely know that it's not an easy industry to be in, but we do what we need to do because we love doing what we do, right? And we just make it work no matter what we're doing because we just love being in the industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you got to have that passion.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm definitely honored to have you on the show. And I know a lot of people were excited to hear from you. And I know that the next thing that I wanted to touch on is something that is very, very cool and very exciting, and a project that you've been working on that you mentioned a little bit ago here. And it's your short film that's coming out, which is a three-part film from what I understand. And
Yes.
I've been lucky to see the trailer for the first part of the film, which is very, very exciting. But there is definitely a lot involved with that. And you've gotten to interview and talk to a lot of very, very well known people in sports media about their experience. And you ask them the hard questions about things that they might not answer to the public. So if you can open up a little bit about what the film is before
Yeah.
we kind of dive into it in more detail and what is involved with it, because I mean, guys, I've seen the trailer for this film, and there's a lot of people that you all watch on your TVs every day that he's gotten to interview for this film. So
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it. And then Two reasons why I started this project. One reason is I was a huge fan of Avengers Infinity War, not Endgame, but Infinity War. I love that movie. I love the concept. I love Thanos' mindset. I love how the Avengers try to take him down and failed. So I really try to use that same concept in like producing this film. And I always tell people, like, I feel like I have the Avengers of sports reporting in this 3-part project. And I always tell people, if I have the Avengers of sports reporting in this project, what character do you think I am? So I ask you, what character do you think I am? And you don't have to answer now; you can answer later. But like, that's this food for thought. If you can guess the character I think I am. But I'm a huge sports fan, and I watch sports shows just like you every day. I watch First Take every day if I can. I watch CBS Sports, Fox Sports religiously. Like, I love to watch sports shows more than I like to watch sports itself, because I love the debating and I love the camaraderie of the anchors and the broadcasters. So we're so fortunate to have great sports journalists, reporters sharing and interviewing our favorite athletes, our favorite teams, our favorite GMs, our favorite presidents of teams, right? But we hardly ever see them being interviewed, and we hardly ever see them being on the hot seat. And this film is all about that. Ever since I was a little boy, I always was curious about how sports reporters and journalists get that respect to go in the locker room before and after games. How do their personal life and their career, how do they juggle both? What colleagues do they like to, broadcast with? What colleagues they don't like to broadcast with? And I know a lot of times they always, make fun of or like judge athletes and teams about they should get along. Well, vice versa, right? They should also get along too with their colleagues. So some of that is in there. And then this a lot about this, who they are. When you watch this film, it's going to be a different light of who we see when we watch them on television on a daily basis. It's going to be a totally different light. And that was my main purpose, to get a different perspective of who they are, not just as journalists or anchors or reporters, but as people, as a person, because we kind of look at them as kind of a superhero in the media world. And you also get in this film a snippet of why I'm so passionate of doing this. My goal in my life is to be one of the greatest producers and interviewers of all time, like hands down. And even though that seemed like a far-fetched task, I'm up for the challenge. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, since my senior year in high school. And I love this producing. I love interviewing whoever I can interview. So your listeners, your viewers, they're going to really get a lot of different angles of reporters and anchors that we see on TV. And they're also going to get a tribute. My second favorite basketball player of all time is Kobe Bryant. And before the film even starts, there's a 2-minute tribute to Kobe, Vanessa, and Gianna. I wrote a message to him, and I created an image and a picture of Gianna and Kobe Bryant walking into in the phone booth in front of the Staples Center, and then coming out as superheroes. So it's really a tribute for Kobe. So even before the film starts, your listeners, for all the Kobe fans, I know we're in Boston territory, but Kobe was obviously a huge icon for everybody. So they can expect a first 2-minute tribute to Kobe Bryant and his family.
That's so cool. And I love that. And even, any NBA fan can agree that even if you're not an NBA fan either, just the impact that he made on the sports world in general is just something that you're never going to find again. And it's just never going to be the same without him. And especially the NBA world, but just sports in general, and just how much of an advocate he was for females in sports, and just really being there and coaching his daughter, and just being somebody that was a big icon for growth when it came to younger athletes in sports. And I think that anybody that's a sports fan in general can agree that just Kobe as a person and Kobe as an athlete is just somebody that is really rare, that it just is a huge loss to the sport in general. And it's just not going to be the same without him.
One of the things that people overlook, in my opinion, is just the fact that he was a great athlete, but he was so articulate. And here's a guy who went from high school to the NBA. He was always well-spoken. And I always tell people, like, I have my master's degree in journalism, and I'm not even a quarter of, articulate as he was. And here's a guy who went from high school to the pros. And that's just amazing of itself. And this, the way he was articulate and the way he spoke. And, that's, we all just kind of strive to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Kobe's somebody that we're all going to just, never forget and just strive to be for a long time in terms of just as a person and as an athlete. If for people that are athletes that are listening, I think that's the type of person that you really would want to become off the court and on the court. And I think it's great that you're dedicating a couple minutes of your film to him, because it's very, very important to just recognize everything that he did for basketball and just for people in general, and just how much of a difference he made. And I think that's awesome. And so I'm excited to see the film when it comes out. But just to give people kind of a sense of what the film is, I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I'm gonna share a trailer of the film actually that Mike sent me, that you all are going to get the pleasure of seeing now. And it's pretty incredible. So just tune in for a minute while I share my screen, and I'm going to show you this trailer that he created. Because he's interviewed a lot of great people, and I think it's awesome that he's able to do this and just get a lot of people on here. So yep. Okay. It's giving me a little bit of a delay because I have to type my password to share my screen. But yep, I will do it. Okay. Oh, we should. All right. Here we go. I think everyone can see my screen.
Yeah.
And you actually, I don't know if you get this a lot, but you're really tall.
Yeah. Normally I'm sitting down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're tall. You're tall.
At the end of the day, he wants a chip. That's the place to be, and they just weren't going to get it done there. If he doesn't get the chip this year, that's bad.
Right.
He's got to win this year.
Right.
My own swing,
Right.
And that's what I think he really contributed to the game that people overlook a lot. Not even that he's one of the greats, but
It was speculation, a lot of rumors, a lot of negative stuff, and you and Mike went your separate ways. But at the end of the day, you guys still talk. And what have you kind of learned from him as him being a host on the show with you for so many years?
Well, I think one of the things we learned is, given time, what a show could turn into. Listen, when we started, I hadn't done the show.
Do you think you're a better journalist or interviewer?
Okay. I hope everybody saw that.
I hope so too. If not, it's no worries, because they will see it.
Yeah, I
They
think
will see
that
it.
was a great question that you asked Stephen A. at the end.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to leave you guys, a cliffhanger.
Oh, they did see it because people are commenting on it.
Oh,
Saying
nice.
that was a tremendous trailer. Let me show this comment.
Oh, nice. Woo! Thanks, Randy. I appreciate that. Wow.
he's one of my biggest supporters, and he
Good.
did see it, and he really liked the trailer.
Sweet. Good. Well,
Yeah.
Mom. Oh.
This would be my mom. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So people like it.
Good. Well, I'm glad your viewers and your listeners do like it, and you could watch the full film, part one, because it's a 3-part film. Part one next Monday, this Monday coming up. And I also entered a little contest. People are going on my YouTube page, which is The Sport of Reporting Part 1. And I have interviewed 22 journalist reporters in this 3-part film. And in Part 1, it's only going to be 7. So if you can guess the 7 names that's going to be in Part 1, you'll win a $500 Visa gift card. So I have a few people, like, for the past few weeks, they've been entering, and you can enter as many times as you want. The deadline is Monday, April 26th, 7 p.m. So I have a lot of people just kind of submitting 7 names, and then they resubmit 7 more names. So, it's hard because it's like a lottery, but, you never know. You may pick the 7 names for Part 1. So I encourage all your listeners to go on my page and have some fun with that.
All right, everybody, do that. Try to win that Visa gift card for sure.
Right.
But my biggest question really about this is just what kind of drew you to making this kind of film, and how did you go about getting all of that talent on your show? Because I mean, these are people that they're very, very well-known people, and they are very busy with a lot of stuff, and it's really cool that you were able to get all of these people. So I know people would be curious kind of how you executed that.
Right. So I could there's a few short stories I could kind of tell how I got a few of them, because some of them are really impressive and really just lucky. Yeah. The concept of it was, so I interviewed Molly Kerm back in 2016. She was a guest on my talk show. And this is way before I thought about the creation of the Sport Report. And I was just happy to interview her because she's actually from New Haven. I'm from New Haven. So I was just happy. She's one of the people I look up to. So she was a guest on my show in 2016. A year and a half later, I got the privilege, after countless of emails and countless of rejections saying, no, he can't do it. No, he's busy, blah, blah. After a year and a half, I got the chance to interview Stephen A. Smith. So one-on-one. So after that, maybe 7 months after that, I interviewed Chris Broussard from Fox Sports. And it was the interview I did after with Chris Broussard. I was like, wow, I interviewed Molly Kerm, interviewed Stephen A. Smith, and I just interviewed Chris Broussard. Let me see how many more of these sports journalists, reporters, analysts I could get. So I sent out a mass email to all the sports journalists, not all the sports, but a lot of sports journalists, sports reporters, sports analysts. I sent a mass email out. Some replied, some declined, some emails are probably still pending. And with the emails I got back, I was able to make this film. Now, going about getting each one was different. And that's why I say I kind of compare it to the Avengers. But for example, Molly Kerm, the way I got her was just luck. So she was in New Haven one time, and she was in a dance studio. And I do a foster care charity because I was in foster care and I was adopted, and I'm a big advocate. So I went to this dance studio to pick up the collection because they were doing donation for my charity. So I walk in, I speak to the owner, I'm, talking, and I see Molly. But at first I don't know who she is, but she's a beautiful woman. So I'm just keep staring at her. And then I'm like, she looks so familiar. I keep looking at her, and she's I'm looking at her, and I'm like staring at her. I'm like, where? So then after she's done with her dance lesson, I said, hey, I think I know where you're from. And she was joking. She said, oh, you got one try. And I said, you're Molly from First Take. She said, yep. And I said, it's an honor to meet you because you're from New Haven and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, no problem. I told her I'm a local talk show host myself, and I'm trying to be on the same level as she. And she said, oh, no problem. It's a good meeting you. And I said, whoa, can you be a guest on my show? Just like that. I was like, can you be a guest on my show, please? And she said, yeah, no problem. I was like, for real? She said, yeah. She said, here's my email. She gave me her personal email. And then from there, it was history. So that was how I got Molly. And then Jay Harris from ESPN, the legendary Jay Harris, who's on with Hannah Storm on Sundays and the weekends. I got him because I was a substitute gym teacher last year at one of the schools in Connecticut. And this is when I was still making my project, and I was showing different people who I came across, look at my trailers, look at some of my projects. And at the time I was subbing for a gym teacher, and one of her colleagues saw my trailer, and said, oh, that's good stuff. I said, oh, thank you. And she says, my brother knows Jay Harris. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. Like, you think you could get me a hookup? She said, I can't promise you, but I could give you the email to my brother and you guys could go from there. And then that's how I got Jay Harris. So they're all like different ways how I got certain of them. And then most of them, though, was literally this, I'm not going to lie, old fashioned, keep emailing them, keep calling them, keep talking to their publicists. I always tell people my philosophy is, how many no's are you willing to go through just to get that one yes? And then how many more no's are you willing to go through just to get another yes? And that's my philosophy. And that's how making this project, that's how me producing my own show has always been about. You're always going to get no's. 85% of all my guests, whether it's Steven, whether it's Maya Angelou, whether it's Russell Simmons, 85% always, for the most part, say no the first time I ask them. The very first time I would say, can they be a guest? Or if I speak to their publicist or agent or them directly, most of the time it's always no. So you just have to follow up and let them know, listen, you're serious. Like I always try to persuade them and let them know, listen, I'm serious. I'm not going to put this on, World Star. This is what I do. This is my passion. So, you just got to stay with it. But that's how I got some of them. That's how I got Jay Harris and Stephen A. Smith.
That one is one I'm the most curious about, I think.
Yeah, that was long, and I never told anybody this on air, but I'm gonna tell you. And I know that sounds cliche, but I'm dead serious, and I could even show you the email after this.
Okay.
So I was emailing his publicist for over a year, saying, "Could he come on?" No. And then sometimes we're like, "Well, he's busy," which I get. Obviously, he's Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
So no. So, I've been fortunate to interview a lot of great people. Maya Angelou is one of them, and some other people, Russell Simmons, Misty Copeland, blah, blah, blah. So I finally emailed his publicist, and I said a white lie, not going to lie. And I said in the email, I was like, how come it's taking me so long to get Stephen A. Smith? And I just interviewed our president, Donald Trump. This is when Donald Trump was in office. Within 30 minutes, she emailed me back and said, you and your crew members have 45 minutes, come next Tuesday.
So you just said that? You just didn't.
and that's how I got Stephen A.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yep. I say to your listeners, and I tell you the people who I come across and my listeners and my family, like it was a little white lie, but like on all honesty, you do what you have to do to be successful, and you do what you have to do to be great. Yeah, it was a little white lie, but like, how many people said they could interview Stephen A. Smith? Not too many hands go up.
Yeah, probably not many at all.
Right. So that's how I got Stephen A. Smith. Scott Fan, who I just did an interview like a month ago, who I just posted on my YouTube, who's legendary as well, who's well known at ESPN. I got him. Not even wanted to interview him. I knew somebody from ESPN, and I guess it was miscommunication. And I said to him, can you see if I could do a live chat with him so I could promote my sport reporting on ESPN?
Yeah.
And he said, sure, I think he'll do that. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, good. I'm excited. So after a couple of weeks, we were talking and we finally got things going. The day of me supposed to be being interviewed by him, promoting the thing, he said, he's going to give you 15 minutes. Do you have your questions ready? I said, my questions? He said, yeah, you want to interview him, right? So in my mind, I'm like, of course. I mean, I would love to interview him, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I said, sure. So within 15 minutes, I looked his history up, wrote some questions, and then I interviewed him. So, but that wasn't even my objective. I wanted to kind of promote on ESPN on his live, but I guess it was miscommunication, and so I got to interview him. So all of them are so unique how I interviewed them. And like I said in the very opening, I really say I have the Avengers of sport reporting in this film. And can you guess what character I am? You may get this. A lot of people don't get it, but you know what character you think I am.
I mean, this is hard because you're asking somebody that really does not know the Avengers.
Okay. All right. No problem.
But the people that are commenting on this live stream probably know the Avengers better than me, and probably will be able to give an answer as the rest of the show goes on, because I do remember seeing the original Avengers movie in theaters, and was not interested, so I wasn't paying that much attention to
Okay.
it. But
Right.
I think that people will be able to get it as the show goes on if they keep
Yeah,
talking.
let them do that. That's fun. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
everybody, you can take a guess at that if you want. But while you guys do that, we're gonna talk about the Celtics a little, because the Celtics really have turned things around since the trade deadline. Kind of like the last time I talked about the Celtics on the show, and I thought if they made a couple moves that maybe they would turn things around and they would play better. And that is coming through here now. I mean, granted, they played last night and they didn't win, but they played the Bulls, who also had made some moves at the trade deadline too. Yeah. But they are playing really well, and so this is exciting to see because I think that the moves that they made are moves that help their depth more than anything, and that's something that they really needed. And I know that you, being a basketball fan, can probably agree with the fact that the Celtics needed to make some moves at the trade deadline to really be taken seriously and be a team that can contend with other teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I agree. I think the trade deadline was a little bit clutch for them. I think right now, they're in fifth, right, in the East?
Yeah.
So if the playoffs started hypothetically today, they would be playing the Hawks, I believe. And I like that matchup because I like the guards. I like Lou Williams. I like Trae Young, and then Walker is a phenomenal basketball player when he's healthy, when he's at his best. Mm-hmm. I will say though, like I feel like even that matchup on paper, I would say Boston, just on paper. But the Hawks are pretty good, and I would say if the playoffs start today, I think that may go all the way to Game 7. And right now I can't say Boston or the Hawks. I would say would be up in the air. I don't know. I just feel like the Boston are good on paper, and I feel like they're not using their full potential. And that may be just me. I just feel like there's something about they're not using their full potential, and they're really, really good. And I know there's been talks about the coach being laid off, or maybe this could be his last season if they don't, make it far enough, which I understand. So I don't know. I just feel like I feel like, especially in the NBA, we are evolving, and it's an evolution time. And I feel like nowadays we're seeing a lot more young coaches, a lot more former players who played the game who are now coaches, which is good and all. But I feel like they're not as aggressive as like the coaches back in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. And I feel like that's going to play a big part in the future in the NBA. I feel like right now, the best coach right now by far is Greg Popovich. Like, he's old school. He doesn't care if his players like him or not. He cares about winning and executing. And in my opinion, we have a lot of coaches that kind of like, they don't want to step on their players' shoes. And Greg doesn't care about that. How's he going to step? He has the best, probably arguably one of the best power forwards in Tim Duncan. And they have, he got in his head and in his face. And I just feel like Brad Stevenson is like, he's the Mother Teresa of coaches. He seems like a sweet guy. He seems like a nice person, a down to earth. But there's been talks throughout the months of like his players not really trusting him and believing in him. And I always kind of think, like, what are their practices like? Is he having full control in the practices? Is he focal? Is he not focal? And I just feel like in the NBA, we're going to see a shift in the next few years. We're going to see a lot of young coaches. And in my opinion, either to win a championship, you're going to have a talented player like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, or you're going to have a skilled coach. And right now we're seeing a lot of young coaches. And I don't see where that's going. So we'll see. I don't know. I could be wrong, but hopefully that's where I kind of get with the Boston Celtics right now with them.
Yeah, I feel like I see what you're saying in terms of the fact that Brad Stevens there's been mixed feelings on him lately because of how the season's been going. So people are like, oh, maybe change is a good thing for this team. But at the same time, I mean, he's pretty acclimated with the team now that it's like, how do you throw a new coach in the mix right now when you're still going to make the playoffs. And I mean, we'll touch on this too, and the moves that they made and where that might put them relative to other teams in the East. But I think that Brad Stevens as a coach is still kind of what they need right now in terms of the team that they have right now, because he seems to know relatively what works and what doesn't. I mean, there have been fourth quarters that have been rough that he just can't seem to figure out how to coach the team in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. But I think that in terms of relative to a lot of other teams right now, I think the chemistry that he builds in terms of the Celtics, he seems to find a way to build chemistry among his players that I think has helped them in prior years to get as far as they've gotten. And I'm sure other people can speak on this too, but I think he's the type of coach that's big on team chemistry on the court and off the court. And I think that kind of shows when they play their games, because they're the type of team that if everybody meshes well, they're playing well.
Right. Like I said, on paper, they look really well. They look good.
Yeah, exactly. And they at the trade deadline, they did make a couple moves. I mean, they got Evan Fournier, which at first people were like, oh, I don't know if that's the move that I would have made. And he's out right now. But when he was playing in those first few games that we saw him play, he was really making an impact for this team. And I think that that's really good too, because having somebody like him is only going to help with the depth. And they recently just signed Jabari Parker, which is also something that was iffy to people because he wasn't really performing before the Celtics signed him. And this year was kind of an iffy season for him so far. But now that the Celtics signed him, he might actually be good for this team, and he's already showing that too. I mean, he's putting up some points offensively, and worst comes to worst, he ends up just being an extra bench piece for them. And the bench, I feel, is something that the Celtics lack relative to other teams in the Eastern Conference. And I think if you can bring somebody like that in that could provide help, because I mean, Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they need the help. So right. If you can provide somebody that can bring that help to them, right. I think that's not going to hurt either way. You know what I mean? So I think right. that either way is going to be somebody that can bring something to the team, because he's not going to start, but I think that Tatum and Brown need that help. Right. And bringing somebody like that in off the bench that can provide some scoring in the paint, I think is really key.
I think you're right. And in my opinion, I also think and this may sound like I'm throwing shots, but I feel like if Tristan Thompson was this used his full potential and this is a little bit to me more serious, I think he would. I mean, his experience with LeBron and going to the finals and stuff, that's also what helped the Celtics. But again, I don't think he's at that level, which is unfortunate. But I feel like if he got there, that would help the Celtics significantly. I mean, his knowledge of the game, his experience being in the finals, because like we said in the other podcast, the Celtics have been to the Eastern Conference a couple of years. So they kind of have smelled the finals. So they just need that player to this is what we have to do. But I feel like he's not it, but he can be it though. That's what I'm saying. He can be it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Tristan Thompson. I think that's been really frustrating all season because they brought him in with a lot of expectations. Right. I think that he would be somebody that could really deliver and really be that guy that could be that veteran that has had playoff experience and could really help out some of those young players. But not only has he not performed to expectations from what they signed him to be, but also he hasn't really shown that he's that true leader in the locker room. Right. And I think that's a problem. And I do think that that's something that still lacks. And I'm trying to give some of these new guys time. Some of the guys that they acquired recently, I'm trying to give them time. But I was really, really waiting for Kemba to step up as that guy and be that person that can lead the team in the locker room with his experience and just the way that he plays the game. I was really hoping that he could be somebody that could kind of help guide this team in the right direction. Because, I mean, you have players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum that are hopefully going to be on this team for a long time. I mean, I cross my fingers that they don't do something dumb and get rid of one of those players in the future. Right. You have players like that, but they're still so young, and they have so much experience and growth still that you need those veteran players to really step up and be there for this team and guide them through the hardships and say, you know, we lost this game, but it's okay because we can keep going and we can really make a run. But if you don't have anybody in the locker room that's saying that, then it's hard for the team to get motivated to keep going when it comes to down the stretch. And now it really is the definition of down the stretch because there are not that many games left in the regular season.
And that's where the then line comes in. That's where you say, all right, do you put a lot of the blame on the players like Walker, Tristan, who are veterans, or do you also put the blame on the coach? And like you said, unfortunately, we don't have players to step up. So on another team, a coach could say, all right, get your stuff together. Get your act together. Like you said, it's crunch time. So that's when you kind of, you know, draw the line at like who's to blame. Is it 50-50? Is it a little bit more for the coach, or is it more on the veteran players? So that's where it kind of gets convoluted. So
yeah, and I know people were kind of just skeptical about this team in the first place when the season started, just because there were things that we weren't sure were going to click, especially with the fact that Gordon Hayward was gone and whether his absence was going to be a big deal for this team or whether Kemba was going to be able to.
I don't think they should let him go.
Yeah,
what do you think?
That's a common way to feel on this, and I do think that was a position and the role he was taking on was something that they were seriously lacking. And we saw that for a lot of games going into the trade deadline. I think that there was a blatant absence of Gordon Hayward that the team was really seeing, and us as fans were really seeing, like, okay, obviously Hayward's absence is noticeable. And I think that the role he was taking on was not exactly filled. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to target at the trade deadline. And I think that if everybody's healthy, they can be a good team. It's just really, really hard to be fully confident in everything that they're doing right now unless they have people like Evan Fournier that can really stay healthy. Because I think he can be a really important role if he can stay healthy and he can come back when it comes to crunch time and playoff time. Because there's only, 15 games or so left of the regular season right now.
Right. I agree.
And so, I mean, they'll be a playoff team. I mean, they're in the 5 spot right now, so they should be a playoff team. But I guess what I'm still hesitant about is I don't think that they have what they need right now to beat teams like Brooklyn and Philly.
I agree. Like I said in the beginning, they're definitely they're in 5th spot. And like I said in the beginning, I wouldn't be surprised if they went to the second round, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got out the first round either, as of now and what we have seen. So
yeah, and obviously the West is really competitive too. I mean, you have teams like Utah who just that offense, it's hard to stop. And I mean, they're playing games right now. They dominated the Lakers last night, and Donovan Mitchell wasn't even playing.
Right.
So that's crazy to me
scary.
too.
That's scary.
I know if you have your offense playing like that and you don't have your best player.
Yeah.
The West, I do think, is better than the East right now. I really do think that the West is more stacked. And people are saying it should be in the bag for the Lakers to win the whole thing if they're fully healthy and they have LeBron and AD. But I still don't know. I mean, if they're fully healthy, I still don't necessarily know that they can beat Utah, because Utah this year just has something. And even the Suns, people want to sleep on them this year, but they're a really good team too. And I think that the thing with the Celtics right now is, even if they were to somehow find a way to come out of the East, which I think the fire that you see players like Jason Tatum come into every game with, or Jaylen Brown, but players like that just come into every game with a sense of urgency. Like, we want to win this game. And you don't see that from the whole team. And I think if we saw that from the whole team, they could be a threat. But when it comes to that Western Conference, if they were to go to the finals, I don't know how confident I would be in them beating any of those teams in the West right now.
Yeah, touche. I would have to. Yeah, when you were talking, I was trying to think of at least one team maybe they could go to a good battle with, and I can't think of any. At least the top 5 of the West. No way.
I think the West is just.
Yeah,
I think the West is just more dominant this year. And I mean, this is a good point too. Chris Paul makes a huge difference to the Suns this year. That was when they got Chris Paul, I was like, okay, yeah, that's gonna be a good move for them. But the difference that he's made is just incredible. And I think that when you look at the teams in the West, it's gonna take a lot for a team like the Celtics or the Sixers or the Nets. I mean, the Nets maybe I think could really compete with any of the teams in the West, but anybody else, it's going to be really hard. And I think it's going to take, like you said before, the coaching, and it's going to take just having those players that can really come out and just show that they deserve to be there. And I think what the Celtics have right now, if people are fully healthy, I think that they have a chance to beat those teams. It's just what I'm seeing right now with the inconsistency on defense, especially. And the defense, I will say, has gotten better from the past conversations I've had on the show about the Celtics. But overall, I still don't think the defense is enough to stop players like AD and LeBron, because they leave people wide open for threes, and that's not good either. I mean, you can't be leaving people wide open for threes. And even last night, they played the Bulls, and they were leaving Vucevic open for threes all the time. And
NBA is all about threes now, so I don't get why when teams do that, not just the Celtics, when teams do that, like the threes is the new era. So I don't get why you would. I don't care if a center's have the three. You better contest it, because that center can have a lucky three.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the whole thing about the Celtics needing those players that are reliable in the paint, the big guys that can just take those shots and then also can be good defensively. And they have players like Marcus Smart, who I'm happy wasn't traded at the deadline, because there was talk that he would be traded at the deadline. And having players like him who are actually good defensively and also contribute offensively, that's what the team needs. And I think that they did get better at the deadline. I really, really do. And I think that I feel much better off now than I did. The last conversation I had on the show about the Celtics was right before the trade deadline, and what I would have liked to see them do at the deadline. And I think that they made some moves, and I think that they are better now. I feel like they can go further in the playoffs than people are expecting, as long as they stay healthy and they keep that chemistry and that hard work, because they all want it. They all want to win. Right. That's not what I'm questioning. It's just, can they compete with a healthy KD in Brooklyn? Because the Nets are winning games without KD, because he's been.
I know. That's a hard pill to swallow. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I hope that they can kind of continue to play the way that they're playing, because they're 7-2 in their last 9 games, which is pretty good, which was after the deadline. And I think that that's promising, but I think it's just about health at this point. And I think Brad Stevens is really on the hot seat, because I think if this year they don't do enough to get further than they were expecting to go in the playoffs, I think that that maybe his job is
Oh yeah, no, of course, no. I think so. I think there's no question. Yeah, I mean, I think if they go to the Eastern Conference, that would be a safety net for him. But that's only if they reach to the Eastern Conference, and that's just a safety net. So, the real, this is the real world, and anything can happen. But I think if he doesn't get their team to the Eastern Conference, then you guys may be looking at a different coach, 21, 22.
Yeah, because they went to the finals last year and they came up short too, which was disappointing. But I mean, Miami was good last year, but that was a series I really thought they could win. Right. So I do feel like maybe he's committed. I mean, he turned down. I mean, he got offered a pretty mega deal with Indiana to coach their college team. I don't know if you saw that, but Brad Stevens was offered a pretty hefty sum of money to coach the Indiana basketball team, the college team, and he turned it down because he wanted to keep coaching the Celtics. This was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, this was recent. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
weeks ago.
Right. So they wanted to know if he could coach for the upcoming season for the college.
Yeah, they were offering him the job to coach next season at Indiana.
Next season, got it. Yeah, and he turned it, and he said no.
He said no. Yeah, and it was a pretty good deal too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. Yeah. Imagine if he said yes, though. How awkward that would have been in the locker room, given what's going on already. Like, because a lot of coaches a lot of people in his shoes would said yes. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that to me shows that he really sees championship potential here. Right. That's why that to me is why him saying no to that kind of made a difference to me, because I said, oh, maybe this is because he feels like this team can win a championship soon. And that's why he wants to stay here, because he's invested in coaching this team.
Right.
Which is that's a huge factor. And I think that he's a really good guy right now for the job, because I think that there's a lot of things that he knows how to do and he can work with the players. And I think maybe if they don't win this year, maybe they should consider a change. But for right now, this is the guy that this is our guy. And Danny Ainge, people like to just crap on Danny Ainge all the time, but he did make those moves at the deadline, and he did make this team better, I think. So as long as they can, I saw Daniel Tice playing against them last night because he went to Chicago, so that was hard. But if they can keep playing like this and be fully healthy, they can be up there and compete with other teams in the Eastern Conference for sure. I mean, you have Brooklyn, who is Brooklyn, and Philly's playing really good basketball, but Philly, again, is a team that always chokes in the playoffs.
Do you think right now they could beat the Bucks?
I don't know. That's another one that I think that could be a good series, though.
Yeah.
I think that, the Bucks are another team that can't seem to finish the job in the postseason either.
Yep.
And I think that, I was surprised that Giannis signed that extension there, because I feel like if I'm Giannis, I want to win a championship. And is this current Bucks team the team that can win a championship? I really don't think so. So I was shocked that he signed an extension with them. But I think the Bucks are a team that they can actually compete with if they're fully healthy. I really do. The teams that I really genuinely am concerned about are Brooklyn and Philly.
Right.
Sure.
Yep, I agree.
But we'll see what happens there. And I really am a little bit nervous, but I think that they did what they could at the deadline, and I think they're playing really good basketball right now, so that's exciting. But I can't help but notice your Mets hat, so I do want to talk a little bit about baseball.
Yeah, I'm not a big Mets fan, but in this 3-part project, I have had 3 of classic Mets managers and players, so that's my connection.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, who's your actual baseball team?
I actually do like Red Sox. I like the Red Sox, and I always tell people, and people hate to say this, hate to hear it because I'm from Connecticut, and it's kind of split, but I'm not gonna lie. I would say 60-40, so 60% love the Yankees and 40% love the Red Sox. And I tell people the past 20 years, whether you like it or not, the Red Sox are the new Yankees. Like, we have won more titles, and it is what it is. Like, it is, and people just hate that. So whatever. And we were on a winning streak, and then we lost, but we're still good. I'm not a true loyal. Like, I don't know more than you know. So I hate when I say we're still, because I don't probably follow as much as you, but I know it's still early. And one thing about the baseball, like, I don't know, in my opinion, the first 20, 30 games means nothing, because it's 162 games. So it's still early, but it was great to see him winning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're still winning games. They lost their first 3, which was very upsetting. Then they went on a 9-game win streak, which was exciting.
And now the Yankees are losing.
And then they lost a game. But again, when they lost their game, that was the 4th game in a 4-game series against the Twins. It's very, very hard to sweep a 4-game series, and the Twins are a good team too. Mm-hmm. That's a good offense, and I think that taking 3 out of 4 from that series is more than I even expected them to. I would have taken a 2-2 split with them. Then they played the White Sox, took 2 of 4, which is good. The White Sox have one of the best pitching rotations in the American League right now. Mm-hmm. And that's a scary team, and that's a team that genuinely can make a World Series run with what they have right now. And I think that the fact that the Red Sox took 2 of 4 from them shows that this team is for real, because before the season started, I know a lot of people that thought the Red Sox were not going to be legit. They were going to be a bottom team in baseball. They were going to finish right with the Orioles in the AL East towards the bottom. And I tried to tell people before the season started, I think this could be a really good team. This could be a surprise team that ends up being a wild card spot in the playoffs. Do I think they're going to win the division? I really don't, because I genuinely do think the Yankees will figure it out eventually and will win the division. Mm-hmm. If they don't figure it out by May, I might change that statement. But I do think that they're too talented to finish where they are now. And I think that eventually they'll figure it out. But I genuinely think the Red Sox will be a playoff team. I'm going to go on record and say that. I'm going to go on record and say I think the Red Sox will be a wild card team with the way that they're playing and the offense that they have and the pitchers. That was the question mark, but the pitching's been pretty freaking good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about how do you like their pitching game?
So far, I like it a lot. I think that the pitching is exceeding expectations right now by a lot. And I think that the pitching is something that people thought was going to be their downfall, because it was last year. Because last year, the Red Sox pitching was horrendous. I'll be the first to say that. They were terrible last year pitching-wise, and they'd come in and they'd blow games when the offense would put up a nice lead. And it was just a frustrating season to watch. And, yeah, it was a shortened season, but it was bad. And this year, the pitching has gotten so much better. They made some moves in the offseason, and they have some people coming back, like Chris Sale, who's supposed to be coming back in July, and Erod, who is back now, and Nathan Eovaldi, who's been pitching really well. And I think that what they have now is genuinely a team that can make the playoffs. And I think a lot of people, Yankees fans in particular, don't know how to handle that, because they really were so certain in their minds that the Red Sox were going to be really bad this year. And I think the fact that things are starting off with the Red Sox being so good, I think they just don't know how to take that.
No, absolutely. I want to ask you something real quick about the new inning that they implemented. Can you explain it to me a little bit, because I don't understand it. It's from last year, and I guess they thought it helped last year with the short season, and now they're implementing like a new inning. And then, do you think that's going to help a team like the Boston Red Sox?
Wait, what do you mean by?
I guess they implemented like a new inning, like if it's tied after the bottom of the ninth.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's the extra innings.
Can you explain it to me? And then you think, would that help a team like Boston Red Sox, or does that even matter?
It's the rule they implemented where in extra innings now they start a runner on second base automatically. So when they start extra innings, there's automatically somebody on second base.
Wow.
So a lot of people, me included, don't like it because if you give up a single, you give up that run a lot of times. And it's supposed to shorten the game. The idea is so that they can shorten extra innings and not have people trying to get around the bases every half inning. But for me, with somebody starting on second base, it just kind of – I don't like it because it just makes it not as competitive in extra innings. I feel like it just kind of is. If you're a pitcher and you give up a single, then you give up that run, and it doesn't even make the game quicker. Because I mean, I saw the Red Sox play a 12-inning game with that rule already.
So if you're a away team and you are your team is on second base and you score, your team automatically wins, or you keep playing the inning?
No, you keep playing. So
but they just get an extra. It's easier.
And then they get somebody on second base too.
Right, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't like it?
No, I don't. Actually, I'll be very vocal. I've been pretty vocal about it on social media that I don't like it either.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, that's something new. I guess they said they liked it for the COVID last year, so they implemented it last year for COVID, but decided to just keep it. And I think a lot of people don't like it, which is fine. That's fine. I mean, if they want to keep it, then I'll just get used to it eventually. But I'm hoping that it's only a this year thing. Right. But yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic and I'm excited about the Red Sox. I really do think that this team, as I'm predicting right now, will be a playoff team. Right. As long as everybody stays healthy. And once they add Chris Sale, I mean, this is a team playing like this and is 11-6 right now and hasn't even added Chris Sale back yet. So that's going to be fun. So I'm excited about it. I'm optimistic about it. And I'm optimistic about the Celtics as well. Everybody definitely make sure to check out Mike's film. It's a 3-part film, like you said before. Part 1 airs the 26th. 7 p.m. on my YouTube page. On my YouTube page, The Sport of Reporting Part 1, or one word. Exactly, yeah. So check that out, The Sport of Reporting on YouTube. The first part drops the 26th, which I believe is Monday. And then it's a 3-part film, so there'll be a couple others after that. And just, check him out. He's definitely very knowledgeable in the media industry, and he's done a lot and he's accomplished. So it was definitely a pleasure having him on the show tonight. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Thank you for having me. It was an honor. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, everybody, you know where to find Boston Balling. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's on all podcast streaming platforms. It's on social media. Thank you to everybody for tuning in every week, as you guys know, and always appreciate you all. And I'll catch you all next time. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your night and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye. Catch you later, everyone. Bye. Bye. Thank you. See ya.